everyone, welcome to another episode of Key Gripe, the show for short, sweet reviews of new release movies, plus the one thing that annoyed me the most. And I'm going to get back to the way that this show should be, which is short and sweet. So, this should be shorter. Today, I'm going to be talking about the new movie Sausage Party, which was recently released, starring Seth Rogen, Kristen Wiig, Jonah Hill, Michael Cera, Danny McBride, David Krumholtz, Edward Norton, just a ton of people, and it's also an animated movie. This movie basically is an adult version of a Pixar movie, so it's taking a sweet, innocent concept, but it turns it entirely on its head, and there's no pretense at the beginning of this movie that it's going to be anything other than an adult, crass, filthy film right off the bat. Sausage Party, just the basic premise is food exists in this supermarket, and every day they sing their happy song about going to the great beyond, this place where it's basically heaven, and they all believe that this is the place that they're chosen to go, but somebody comes back, essentially, with PTSD, saying that the great beyond is, horrors. It's, that the gods that are choosing them are basically choosing them so that they can kill them, and while none of the other food believe it, a hot dog named Frank and a bun named Brenda ultimately get separated from their packages, and as they go through the supermarket, they discover that there actually is some truth to what the honey mustard was saying, and the great beyond and the gods are actually out to kill them. And so it becomes this, kind of this horror movie reality story. But at the same time, it's also incredibly funny. It's offensive as all get out. This movie, if you are easily offended, you will not enjoy this movie one bit, because there are far too many jokes in here that are un-PC, and even some that I was like, oh my god, are you serious? But it is absolutely crass and ridiculous movie, but it is also so funny. There are certain parts of this movie that I could barely breathe. I was laughing so hard. Visually, it's a great animated movie. I mean, it's not nearly as good as Pixar. It's definitely a smaller scale type animated movie, but it looks good. The visuals are great. It's very simple. I wouldn't say it's, better than most things I've seen. It's probably on par with Toy Story back in 1995, as opposed to some of the stuff we're seeing today that's just aesthetically brilliant. The comedy is just what you would expect from Seth Rogen and company. It's very, very dark, very dirty kind of humor. Absolutely, a lot of very disgusting humor in it as well, but they also, the movie is full of puns as well, just left and right. There's all these euphemisms that we use that we don't even think about that are food related, and in this movie they throw those puns in there, and it just emphasizes how ridiculous and funny that is. The song that they sing was actually composed by Alan Menken, the guy who's done so many of the great Disney musical songs, so it has that very fun kind of almost magical sense to it right before everything turns into an absolute nightmare. But no matter what, it makes it absolutely hilarious. So, overall, it is a great, funny movie, and it has some incredibly offensive jokes that will have you rolling in the aisles if that's your sort of thing. I will say, though, that the humor does work at times, and it also doesn't work at times. Seth Rogen is one of those people I like to say he's better heard, not seen. I prefer listening. Whenever Seth Rogen does a voice acting role, I usually enjoy his acting in those situations. But when I see him on screen, I don't really like him all that much. And his writing is particularly part of the reason why, is because his writing it can be really funny, but it can also be really stupid. And there's a number of times in this movie, which is my key gripe. There's a number of times in this movie where they just, throw out kind of a really stupid throwaway line that's just meant to be, kind of what the hell type of thing. It's very silly, very stupid, and, I think they could have done a lot. They had the momentum throughout the movie of these, puns and these great jokes, but there's times also where just they throw out these really stupid bad lines, or things that are just meant to get a rise out of people, just to be offensive for the sake of being offensive. There's others that work really well, like the Hitler sauerkraut, or throughout the movie there's a dynamic between a lavage and a bagel, who, obviously it's to symbolize the, conflict, the Middle Eastern conflict, that these two are always at each other's throats, and ultimately they come together and fall in love. It's demented. This movie is absolutely demented, and there's a scene at the end of the movie. I don't even want to spoil it, because I want people to be surprised and see for themselves just how far they are willing to go with this movie. And they went really, really far. This movie is absolutely demented in so many ways. But like I said, my key gripe is they tried to be fun. It's one of those where they tried to be too funny at times, and it just didn't work. But I also have to give this movie credit for something else that they did that was surprisingly good. This movie also really addressed the movie itself, you could argue, is an atheist movie in a sense, because obviously at the beginning of the movie everybody believes that they're going to this heaven idea, but then somebody discovers that heaven isn't real and starts to spout out, that it's not real, and when they gather evidence to prove it's not real, a lot of people don't agree. So there's definitely this overarching belief, faith, atheism type of message to it, but at the end it also does kind of come around together. That's not saying atheism is the only way. People need to believe what they believe, as long as there is some sort of evidence or something behind it. So it's an interesting message, and that's kind of where they go with the whole story of, and even, the idea of humans being seen as the gods, and when, the food ultimately challenges the god, the food actually kills the gods in a sense. So it does get, into that sort of realm of almost Nietzschean ideals that, which you wouldn't expect from a movie like this, especially one that is so focused on, drugs and sex, but ultimately it does get down to that, which I've also come to see from, Seth Rogen movies of late, movies like The Pineapple Express, that are a mixture of pretty much every genre. You've got sex, violence, and drugs, all of it in the same movie. Do I recommend Sausage Party to people? I think I do, because I really do think people should see a movie that is this outrageous and ridiculous. Not everybody's going to like it. A lot of people are probably going to watch it and say this movie is absolute garbage, ridiculous, toilet humor, but there is a deeper underlying message to it that I think a lot of us can learn from. The idea of faith and belief and the understanding of, our place in the universe. It certainly does. I'm not going to say it's super existential in that sense, but it does challenge that. There's a lot of this evidence versus belief sort of, controversy in the movie. But even on top of that, it's just extremely funny. And if you're able to stomach this type of humor, some of it is very corny, and that is a pun, but a lot of it is also just dirty, dirty fun. It is the kind of humor that we get nowadays. I wouldn't say it's the greatest humor, but it is absolutely funny. It's ridiculous. It's over the top, outrageous in every way, shape, and form, and that's what makes it funny and original. Not to mention they do have a very cleverly placed dig at Pixar in the movie. So Sausage Party, I'd give this movie an 8 out of 10. It's a very funny movie. Certainly, I expected it to be really funny, and I'm glad it was. There was a little, I wasn't overly impressed by some of the jokes, but I was impressed that they went to the level that they went to and the direction that they took the movie in order to give it a little bit more depth than what you would see on the surface of just a movie about sausages and hot dogs, or sausages and buns, which is basically kind of the impression you get. This is just a movie that's, one long-running sexual innuendo, which, to be fair, it is. The villain in this movie is a talking douche, and I mean that literally. It is the douche thing that I'm not even going to get into that because it's almost too ridiculous. Everything about this movie is absolutely ridiculous, but it is still a lot of fun, very funny, and I do recommend it. That's why I give it an 8 out of 10. So if you have seen Sausage Party, let me know in the comments what you thought of the movie. If you haven't, then hopefully I didn't spoil too much, and you should probably go out and see it. So that's it for this episode of Key Gripe, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. Be sure to keep up on all of my YouTube videos by clicking subscribe, and if you're already a subscriber, thank you, and you rock. Also visit my homepage at dkessner.com where you can find out about all my various other projects, including my written works. How about that? You can also find me at my social media handles, so drop in and say hi. And again, thank you so much for all your support. Love you.